Hi, I'm Travis Frerking. Today we're going over all the features of the Fcw Fast, which is Frerking's advanced sight tool. I'm going to show you proper layout, how to set up all the different slides into here, and the terminology for all the parts and pieces that are on here. So first here is our top lead screw. This is our sight pusher screw right here, and this is what's actually going to push our sight pusher right here in and out to move your sight back and forth. Simple, screw it in, pushes it over. Screw it out to get it out of the way. The next screw is going to be our top locking screw here, and that's going to put pressure onto the slide to keep it up against this sidewall here. The next screw is going to be our bottom locking screw here. And this one we use in certain instances when we need to give the bottom of the slide a little bit of extra support. This here is going to be our height adjustment screw. And that's going to move our plate here up and down to get our slide at the proper height. And then our last screw is called our taper take-up screw. And this is for slides like the SIGs, Springfield XDs, XDMs, where they have a slight angle on their slides and they need to give it a little bit more support. We can screw this in to give it support. And the last item is the slide support bar. And this bar can go in either direction, and it just simply slides in and allows more support on the end of our slide, just kind of a third hand to help us hold everything in place. And that's it. Now we're going to go over the proper installation and sight removal of the next slide. Alright, we're going over the proper usage of the Fcw Fast on a 1911 slide. And this is going to have the standard no-back style cuts. It'll work with Heine and some of your LPA sight cuts also. So I'm going to set this up here. We're going to put the slide support bar into place. We're going to slide our slide right into place here. You can see it just holds right like this. Take our top locking screw and lightly tighten it a little bit just to help everything in place. And we're going to look from the side here and get everything lined up. Get our height lined up here so we have good contact with our sight pusher. And lock everything down into place. And then we're just going to crank it and push the thing right out. Now you want to make sure that you have everything lined up properly. If you need to stop and look through here to make sure you do that before you go any farther, because this sight pusher system is very strong and it can actually damage your slide. So right there. And we'll set our sight up in here. And you can see our sight barely goes in. So we want to make sure it's started square, that it's not canted anywhere here. So I'll slide this back in and bring this sight tool pusher just right up to it and use that to align everything. We'll tighten it up and push the sight into place. And we're simply going to align it here on the sides by looking at our gaps. And if you need to tweak it a little bit after you shoot it, go ahead. Take it out. And that's it. Okay. Now we'll do the front sight. We're going to set this up into here. And once again, we're going to bring our sight pusher right up into the general area so we can use that as our guide. And have it set in just up above the flat dovetail section of the front sight. We're going to be pushing on the whole flat surface of the front sight here. So now we're going to snug this up so we're tight, and then we're going to bring in our bottom locking screw to give us some support here, because otherwise this slide will want to roll on us. That'll help keep that from rolling. So bring this up, and we'll push that front sight right out. Just like that. Get this started. Lock everything back down, and then push that sight back into place. And we can look right through the top here and make sure that we are aligned. Perfect. Now we're going to use the FCW Fast to adjust or remove the sights on a H&K USP. Put the slide support bar back in and set the slide in there and hold it in place. Run our adjusting screw, or our top locking screw, in. Make sure we're lined up, and we'll push the rear sight right out. Or we can just use it to adjust it in one particular direction. Sight back in there and push it back into place. And get her lined up. Okay, now we're going to remove the front sight off of here. So we're going to slide this in, and it's going to drop down into the notch cut here on the height adjustment plate. Bring this over and get it lined up. Okay, and we're going to tighten this down. Now if you look here on this slide, you'll notice that there's a gap here. So this is where our tape or take-up screw comes into play. So we're going to bring that up and snug it up. And now we can push that or the front sight right through there. Okay. Set it all back up. And there you go. Alright, now we're going to move the sights around on a Springfield XDM. And you'll notice the slide here has a large taper here to it. This is where the taper or adjusting screw or take-up screw will really come in handy. So we're going to set our slide in here. Okay, so we're going to lock down our top locking screw, and then we want to take up some of this gap right here in the side. So we'll bring our take-up screw. We're going to snug it up. Now we can push that rear sight through. And these are really tight, but you still want to make sure that you're not rubbing on the slide anywhere as you're pushing the rear sight through. Okay, so there's the rear sight. Get it started there and make sure that it's square. And we'll push her back in. Now if any time you see that you're not sitting square in here after you started your push, go ahead and just back this off and make your adjustments. And that's what I'm going to do here. I want to make sure that I'm not going to hit on the slide. So I need to back this off and pull my slide through just a little bit. Lock that back down, lock your take-up screw back in, and then make your final adjustments. Turn it up in the slide, and we're down there with the rear sight. There you go. Okay, now you're going to see here, this is the most difficult slide to do here. This will be the front end of the XDM here. And we're going to push it up against our sidewall here, bring in our top locking screw to put some pressure on it here. And then we're going to bring our sight adjusting pusher or sight pusher over to it. And what's going to happen is this is going to want to roll around in here. As we push here, it's going to want to kick down here. So we're going to use our bottom locking screw to keep that from rolling over. So there's sometimes you're going to have to make some adjustments as you're going through it. So we're going to start to push it and look to make sure that this is set and level here. If it starts to roll back, then we need to back this off a little bit and put just a little bit more pressure here to roll this back ahead. So now we're sitting pretty flush here, and we're going to go ahead and push that through. You can see it's pushing that right out. And there it's pushed it out, and slide it back in. And get everything lined back up into here. I don't want the sight pusher to be sitting right on the very bottom of the sight itself, otherwise it'll rub here on the top of the slide. So we got this snugged up. We're going to bring our bottom locking screw in, put a little pressure on it, and start to push this across. Now you can see I've got this elevated a little bit here, so we're going to back this off and loosen up the bottom locking screw just a little bit, and that'll allow that slide to roll over a little bit and square itself up. And a little bit more. Okay, there we're lined up. That's it. There's your sights right back on the Springfield XDM.